Hey everybody, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thanks for the warm welcome. People that are still at the tables over there, we're gonna get started in just a minute. You're allowed to bring food over here, I heard. Been given permission, maybe let's try to preserve the carpeting. We have darker carpeting here than in the sanctuary where I work, and that's a good idea. Maybe we should get darker carpeting in Denver. Let's make sure everybody can have a view of the screen, because I'm gonna be pointing a lot onto the screen, so it'll be helpful for you to be able to see. And the closer you feel comfortable, the better, because I want to be able to hear your voices. We're gonna do some singing together. If you have tuna breath or whatever you ate, that is okay. I think everyone's gonna have it, except for maybe the vegetarians like me. I rarely have tuna breath. I'm gonna play one more song on the fiddle, and then we'll get started. Okay, here we go. Thanks for taking time out of a weekday. I appreciate you being here. My name is Eitan. I'm honored to be here for the whole week. We got to start out the week at Joe's Cafe last night, playing a couple songs with DG Mando and with the Brothers Lazaroff. What a group of musicians, just awesome. And today, we're going to be talking about Ashkenazi musical modes. So if that's not what you signed up for, you can still stay. There was lunch. I mean, that's enough. That's enough. Yeah, oh yeah. The last time that I was here was for my mom's wedding in May, and there was no power. And luckily, there's beautiful natural light, and Drew was able to figure out some chargeable speakers that we could use, and Michael was helping out getting the sound going without the power, and somebody had a generator in their truck to run the refrigerator, so it was kind of miraculous. The wedding went smoothly, and so I'm hoping we can continue to have some of that positive vibe here the whole week. Let's start with some singing, and then we'll get into more of the learning content. I bet you know this one. Okay, you sound amazing. It's going to be a great week. Hava Nagila Hava Nagila Hava Nagila Venismecha Oy, 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 oy. Yes, you sound good. Uruachim. I didn't put this. Oh, here we go. Velesa. Yes, this is our home note. Ooh, that's our home note. We're going to call it one or home. It's got a star on it. Yes, I realize I put my computer over there, but the things I need to point to are on this side, so I'm just going to move my computer over here. Luckily, you have a really long HDMI cable. That'd be a good development. Okay, so you already are showing me that you kind of understand intuitively how this system works. We'll talk more about how it works later, but we're going to be using this a lot to learn the modes today. Learning objectives. Learn this visual tool. I developed this with my teacher, Joey Weisenberg, a couple years ago. We're going to practice singing in Freygish mode, which we were just singing in. It's also called Ahavah Rabbah, which means great love. And we're also going to use the Adonai Malach mode, which is also called Jewish major. We hopefully will have time to learn my tune for Vishamru, which is in Freygish. We'll get a taste of some of the other common Ashkenazi modes. We'll discuss Chazanut and how it relates to these modes. Chazanut, cantorial music. And we'll hopefully spark desire for more learning on this topic because we can't cover it all. A, because I don't know it all. B, because we don't have a lot of time.
You can always come back, right?
Question. Did these modes relate at all to classical modes like Ionian, Dorian?
Yes. We're going to get into the definition of a mode in a minute, and we'll answer that question. So if I don't answer it, let me know. Great. We're only talking about Ashkenazi music today. There's a whole broader world of Jewish music, and today just Ashkenazi music. This presentation relies partially on sight. So if you are having trouble seeing this, or if sight is not a strong sense for you, I'm going to try to sing some numbers that hopefully will help orient you where we are. And if you have other suggestions for how to help you, do let me know in the session, or let's talk after. Let's figure out a way for you to access this information. And I'm not an expert in any of this. I'm just a fascinated learner. Okay, so I've never done this presentation at a Reformed congregation. I've done it many times, but not ever at a Reformed congregation. I want to just get a sense of who's in the room, and hopefully this and your questions and things like that will help kind of orient me to what feels relevant to you. So let's close our eyes. First of all, who identifies with the Reform movement? Raise your hand. Okay, and how about with the conservative movement? All right, how about Orthodoxy? Okay, how about another denomination or multiple? And how about none at all? And how about people that aren't Jewish but are just interested in this stuff? Great. And what about musical background? If you feel like your musical background is super strong, raise your hand. And if it's just medium, how about, who's that? And how about very little Jewish background? Okay, musical background, I mean to say. Great. And your energy level right now, whose is super low? Okay, who's medium? And who's super high? Great. You can take your hands down and open your eyes. All those answers were correct answers. Yay. So I grew up in the conservative movement. I grew up going to B'nai Emunah, and the cantorial training that I've gotten has been through the conservative movement mostly. And we talk a lot in that cantorial training about the modes, partially because the modes show up quite a bit in the conservative synagogue service. In my experience of a regular Shabbat service in the Reform movement, the modes show up less. They show up more in the high holiday services and in occasions like a funeral or a wedding. But there are a lot of reasons why I think this still might be super relevant to the Reform world. First of all, I think some of you are musicians and just care about it from that perspective. But when we're talking about these modes, we're talking about very old ways that Ashkenazim have chosen to choose the notes of their songs. And we can see in Jewish music history this trend of jumping forward in time, trying to be super modern, and then realizing, oh wait, we left something behind. Let's go access something older. And then the cycle happens again. So to give you some examples, when German Jews came to the United States, like thinking 1870s, 1880s, they did a lot to become like the Protestants around them because they were afraid. They were afraid if they appeared too ethnic, too not part of the majority ethnic group, then they would be in danger for their lives. So they made their synagogue services as close to a Protestant service as they could. And that meant using actual Protestant hymns as the melodies, using them in 4-part or 8-part choral harmony, and sometimes taking out Hebrew from the service. And they eliminated the spontaneous wailing that was popular in some services in Europe. It became a service where the kahal, the congregation, was an audience. They sat and watched from afar. They didn't sing along. And the Reform movement made this thing called the Union Hymnal, which was a book of choral arrangements of hymns. And it was written in a key that was purposefully too high for the congregation to sing along. It was for the choir. The congregation didn't get the music in their books, only the choir. And there wasn't very much role for a cantor to really do their thing. It was mostly choir-based. Then you get later to like the third Union Hymnal, and the Reform movement is starting to realize we accidentally took out the soul from our religious practice. And so they hired this guy Binder, who came from a different movement, who came more from the conservative world, and he consulted on this project and put back in some older Jewish melodies. He also, they lowered the key. They decided to give out copies to the congregation. So this is a moment they realized, oh no, we accidentally took out an older sound and it's taken some of the spirit out of what we do. Another example is what I'm seeing nowadays, which is people from various denominations, but particularly I see it from people that grew up Reform, who are saying, I grew up with this incredibly beautiful, powerful music of Debbie Friedman and Jeff Klepper, and I love this music, and it feels like camp to me, and it feels like home. But I heard some song that it felt older to me, and I heard it in synagogue, or I heard some Yiddish song, and I feel like, I'm super curious now to learn some of the older stuff. And so in Denver, we have this thing, Nigun Collective, and my sister actually was part of the inspiration for developing that in Denver, because I know they have Nigun Collective here and in the Bay Area. And in the Nigun Collective, I see a lot of people from the Reform movement and from secular backgrounds who are getting super excited about learning very old Ashkenazi melodies, things from the 1700s, things from Europe, from the Hasidic world. And so this feels like part of this trend of let's super modernize. Oh wait, we left something behind. Let's go find what we left behind. So today, hopefully, we'll be accessing something old, and none of what I'm saying is how we should be doing Jewish music at all. There's power in all of this. It's just one idea of something old. Okay, what is a musical mode? I bet a lot of you know better than me, but it's a particular set of notes in which the intervals, like the musical distance between the notes, comes in a particular order in relation to the home note. That was our one. That was our starred home note. What is the home note? How do we know what it is? It's a bit ambiguous, but often the home note is the last note of a section, or the first note of a section, or the note that the other notes feel like they pull to. Usually you can trust that the last note of a piece is the home note. And we're going to talk a little bit about nusach, which is related to this term of mode. So nusach is a set of note patterns that go with a particular service. So for instance, if we take the mode Freygish, Ahavah Rabbah, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 1. That's all of the kind of acceptable notes within Freygish. And then that mode gets applied differently for different services traditionally. So for instance, weekday Shacharit, the weekday morning service, we say, Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu Ha'ela Melech HaGadol Ve'Gabu V'Na'akadoshu. That's 1, 2, 7, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 7, 1. So weekday morning, very limited. These note patterns they're not fancy, and they're very limited in the bottom of the Freygish scale. Then we get to Shabbat morning, we'll get more into it, and we hear We might hear Yishtabach Shimcha. Oh, actually, it wouldn't be there. It would be like Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom kakatuv al yad neviecha. So we're going 1 8 7 6 5 4. So it's the same mode that we're using, this Freygish mode, but we have different patterns that go with that service. So those two services, weekday morning and Shabbat morning, tend to use the same mode, but the nusach, the sets of note patterns, are different. Am I making sense so far? Great. Okay, and I want to show you an example of my nusach presentation because it's a little bit different than this. It's all about the specific phrases. So I'm going to show you one slide from that. And here you go. So we just talked about like Shabbat morning. We have ba-da, ba-ba-ba, ba-da-da-da-dum. And so that looks like 1 5 6 5 4 3. You can see the orange tracks where we are, and the dots are the acceptable notes, and the lines, if they don't have a dot, we don't really use that note in that mode. 1 5 6 5 4 3. We call that phrase opening to the fifth. So this is an example. If we were really covering nusach and not just modes today, we would look at the main phrase chunks, the main phrases that go with a particular service. And if you're interested in learning more about that, by the way, this nusach presentation, which is like 40 slides, I have recordings in each of them of the phrases, so you can kind of like practice with the recording. Okay, why do I care about these? They evoke emotions and memories. Maybe. They help me choose tunes for leading prayers in a service. So, for instance, if I'm on Shabbat morning Freygish, 1 5 6 5 4 5 3, and I want to do it. So usually I'm improvising in that mode, kind of out of time, not in rhythm. But if I want to add in a congregational melody, like in time, I want to use something with either the same mode or a mode that relates. So I might choose, before I was playing Moshe emes, Moshe emes, v'soy rasoy emet. So I might choose that same tune, Moshe emes, to use as a congregational melody because it's in Freygish, and therefore it's going to feel like it flows. So I might go like, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh ba'aram pam, because it's just going to flow from the mode. But with Mi chamocha specifically, I probably wouldn't choose that tune. I would probably choose the Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, which is not in Freygish, but it's going to start, it's in minor starting on the 4 of that Freygish, so I might go, Tehilot le'ele yom baruchu mevorach Moshe u'Miriam v'nei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabba ve'amru chulam. This is my home note 1 in Freygish, but if I go 4, 1 2 3 4, mi chamocha. So you can see how I'm using my knowledge of what mode I'm in to choose the melody I'm choosing and where to start. Does that make sense? Great. You can ask questions throughout. It helps me be a little playful. So for instance, in the repetition of the Amidah prayer in the end of the service on Shabbat morning, there are some parts where I go out of the prescribed mode on purpose, and that's a traditional thing to do in certain spots, to kind of mirror the meaning of what's going on. So there's a line about Har Sinai nistavu aleha ba 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 bum. So I'm going to like a major moment there because I want to mirror the mood of what the text is saying. So I'm choosing to go out of the Freygish mode in order to do that. And that gets me to this point that really improvising in the modes with text in the cantorial tradition is meant to help express the text. That's the key. If whatever you're doing is unrelated to the text, it's probably not the best choice.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you're leading prayers or leading services, how often are you really improvising? Are you like And do you show up with no idea, or at least Friday night you're like, I got a few little thoughts I want to try. I mean,
Yeah,
really
great question.
very free form.
So
Can you repeat the question?
the question was, when I'm leading services, how often am I really improvising? And I have a lot of moments, like in the repetition of the Amidah, for instance, which is something I imagine that you do not do in the same way in a Reformed congregation. I'm spending, I have up to like 15 minutes to sing by myself, and then I put in moments of congregational singing within there, like Yismechu v'malechutecha, what mode is that in? Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei shomrei. Anybody know what mode that is? Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat. It's in Freygish / Ahavah Rabbah. Mekadeshe mekadeshe shevi Shabbat. Okay, so that's an example of a congregational melody that is in the same mode as the prescribed improvisational mode for that part of the service, so it flows really nicely together. Yeah. Something like on Friday night, at the beginning and the end of a psalm, there's often like one line that traditionally the cantor might sing to kind of close a moment of silent prayer or personal prayer. So I'm lightly improvising those moments. Like I'm not going to make them some huge thing, but I'm improvising a little bit. Yeah, having fun with it, totally.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I will say in terms of choosing tunes, I almost never have an idea of exactly what tunes, congregational melodies I'm going to use before I step on the bima, because I want to feel what's happening in the room, and maybe more importantly, I'm looking at the clock and seeing like, what do we have? Because if you keep people, okay, I should have said the number one rule of improvising is don't keep people from lunch. Like, they're hungry.
What time is that? Just reference. Is that noon?
12:05.
So I have a question about your first bullet, which was evoking memories.
Yeah.
My grandparents came to this country in 1922, lived in a shell about 40 miles southwest of Kyiv, of today's Kyiv. And there's absolutely no information whatsoever about how they lived, I mean, just barely. I know the bare bones. One of the things I've been wondering is, what did they hear? What did they do? They were religious. I believe that I wouldn't say they were the most religious people. At least once they came to this country, they were still part of an Orthodox shul, but not divided by men and women, so it was kind of modern. They lived in Kansas City. But what I'm trying to understand is, I mean, all I have is Fiddler in the Roof. Tell
Yes.
me, you know,
I love this question. I think it's about like, yeah, these were your grandparents, what would they have been hearing in Kyiv? So, there's an amazing archive from a musicologist named Moshe Bergovsky, who went around with these wax cylinders that was like pre-vinyl and recorded what he heard on the street and at the dinner table, and then they got put into these books transcribed. So you can look up the Bergovsky archive, or Alicia Spiegels, who's this amazing fiddler. She went through and made some albums of her interpretations of the tunes in the Bergovsky archive. But a cool thing is there are some popular melodies that have been kind of re-enlivened from that archive. One of them we sang at my sister's wedding. Oh, you sing it here? Tonight. Oh, tonight we're going to sing it. And Nava's going to teach it to us tonight. It's called the Kane Street Nigun. So that comes from that archive. That is not from Kyiv. It's from, I want to say, in Lithuania somewhere. But in Kyiv, so there are some archives of old Jewish music that were taken out of Ukraine during this war and actually brought to Boulder. And there's an amazing professor, Yonatan Malin, who is a Jewish ethnomusicologist, who's been going through and kind of bringing to life those melodies from Kyiv. So check out Yonatan Malin's work. Hopefully that kind of answers a little bit of the question.
Yeah, on that, I'm familiar with Bergovsky books. I've worked through a lot of them with the klezmer of them. But and wax cylinder part of it's really interesting. There's actually something that was ported from a wax cylinder recording of Elf's Romanian Orchestra.
Oh, yeah.
And they're performing the majority, like, it's all stuff from the Meragowski.
Oh, that's amazing. And a funny fact about
The
that,
oldest recordings is that.
when you see a klezmer band from back in the day called something Romanian Orchestra, don't trust that they're Romanian. It just sounded cool. They're like, oh, we're gonna, yeah. But I should add that all these archives, they're often featuring music that follows some of these modes that we're talking about today, and that a lot of those sounds are gonna be in tunes that we use in synagogues today as well. And what was the last thing I was going to say about that? Oh yeah, so Kyiv specifically. So the farther you get towards like Germany and France, like core Ashkenaz, the more major it's going to sound usually, and the farther you get towards Turkey, the more Freygish it's going to sound. So generally speaking, so Kyiv is kind of somewhere in the middle of those things, and the Ukrainian cantors were like particularly well known, but Odessa was like the center of the cantorial world in Ukraine. So let's move on, but I love these questions. Okay. We're going to skip this one for now. We'll get more into it. So more about this specific one we were talking about. Let's sing the numbers for a little bit. Let's say this is our 1. Can you sing 1? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay, who can tell me the musical distance between two lines here?
Minor second.
Yeah, a minor second. I never think about it that way, but yes. Yes, a half step. That's right, a half step. So together, two of them is a whole step, or in some cases we see that there are actually 3 halves, or 1.5 steps, or a minor third between some of the dots. So the dots represent the acceptable notes within the mode. So to give you an example of like the major mode, so now we're going to get into that question about how does this relate to the Western mode. So the major mode, bum, 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 bum. Sound familiar? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have our 1, and then we have a whole step, and another whole step, and then a half step, whole, half. So that's the major mode. The Jewish major is a little different than that, but in this case we have our 1, and then we have a half step, 1, 2, and then we're going to have a bigger jump, that minor third, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And remember that the 7 is actually far from the 8. It's a whole step from the 8. So I heard some people sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which would be 7, 8, but actually it's 7, 8. So let's just sing some more numbers. 1, Amazing. You all sound so good. So times that we would hear this are parts of the Shabbat morning service, but not right at the beginning. The repetition of the Amidah, starting at the Kedusha, and we also hear it weekday, Shacharit, and we hear it in a lot of dances in the klezmer world and a lot of Hasidic melodies. A fun kind of quirk of this melody is that we tend to stay in this between the low 7 and the 4 for a while in a melody, and then when the 5 is revealed, that's like a big moment. It's like, oh, the 5. And often when we get to the 5, we call that a shout section. So maybe you've heard in some melodies, ay, 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 ay. Does that sound like anything you ever heard? So that's like 1, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And if you're having trouble remember it, just think, Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila v'nismecha. So you can use that to remember this mode, but don't think that that is representative of all Jewish music, and if you're singing Hava Nagila, only find other songs to sing. Okay. Okay, we're gonna skip learning my Vashamri for now. We'll come back to it if we have time. What's a good end time, do you think?
I don't know what people's schedules are like. I mean,
I'm gonna aim for 1:20, and then if people wanna stay longer, there's a lot more to sing about, so. Okay, we're gonna move now to Adonai Malach, Jewish major. Jewish major. So before we sang that major scale, that was like one, whole, half, whole, half, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the Jewish major is going to be kind of similar to that. The biggest difference you're going to see is in the 7 above. So let's sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, that's right. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes. So it gets a little weird above because this 10, when we get 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, that sounds really minor, right? And over here when we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7. So that doesn't sound major, that sounds like a totally different color. But when we went below 1, 7, 1, the 7 is higher below the octave and lower above the octave. So this is one way that Jewish modes are different than the Western modes, is that they're not just repeating octaves necessarily, they often change below the main octave or above the main octave. Yes.
so the second seven is flat. and the first
Exactly.
seven is major.
Yeah, like the 7 below the home note is sharped, and the one above is,
Flat seven.
yeah. So it would probably present some interesting questions in harmonizing the piece. And so I think it's a really beautiful mode in that it gives you a lot of color options. So let's learn a couple phrases. On Friday night, there was this question about how much am I improvising. So Lechuna Ranana, if I'm not doing it as a congregational melody, it's one place where I might do a little bit of improvisation. But let's do kind of like the most popular way to sing this in the mode. Lechu neranena l'Adonai. Let's sing that. Lechu neranena l'Adonai. Now I'll sing Naria. Letzur Yisheinu. Nice. So you heard that we went to the minor 7. Lechu neranena l'Adonai naria, naria letzur yisheinu, which maybe sounds different than if I went naria letzur yisheinu, right? It's a little different emotion to it. Yeah. Lechu neranena l'Adonai naria letzur yisheinu. That was going all the way up to the 10. Lechu neranena l'Adonai naria letzur yisheinu lekadma fanav betoda vizmirot naria lo. So you can hear we're kind of like back to that major sound when we get to the bottom, but up top there's a lot more color to it. How does this mode make you feel? Happy, yeah. Inspired. Okay, and just in terms of the traditional connotation of the modes so far, this mode is associated more with like grandeur, and it's used for a lot of serious occasions, like a wedding ceremony, like the high holidays, beginning of the services. And so we think of it sometimes in our American brains or Western brains as like, oh, this is happy. And it could be happy to you. I'm not telling you how to feel, but the traditional association with Kantorial world is this is about grandeur, and it's kind of like being before royalty, something like that. And an idea about how we got the sharp 7 below and the lower 7 above Some people believe that I got this from Dr. Alex Knapp, when Jewish merchants went to the Arabic world and the Turkish world, and they heard quarter tones, those are notes that are in between the lines written here, they did not know how to write them down. And they came back and they wanted to explain what they heard, but they didn't really have a way in the Western notation for writing that. So they split the difference. They said, below, we're going to put it sharped, above, we're going to flat it. So maybe what they heard was, ba, 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 kind of in there. But they didn't know how to write it down, so they read it like this. Okay. And some people are like, how do I remember this? Because maybe this isn't in your brain. Well, one way that I think of it is, I don't know if you ever heard the song Romania, Romania, which is one of my grandfather's favorite songs. Romania, 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 Romania. So it's got a lot of the hallmark notes that you need. 1, 3, 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 5. Romania, 8, 5, 7, 6, 5. Romania, 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 Romania. So that's one way to think about it. People are often saying, isn't it just happy birthday? But it does have some of the notes of happy birthday, but the home note is different, so I wouldn't necessarily use happy birthday to remember this. And people are often like, well, with the flat 7, doesn't that just match a Western mode? And that would be true if it was the same in all octaves, but it's not, so it's not the same as a Western mode. Okay, we can see here the difference between the Jewish major and Western major. Let's sing together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Amazing. That was great. I almost said a major. I meant to say amazing. And you can see that I was going across like this to help us change modes, but I was using notes that are shared between the modes, so we often call that a pivot note. A pivot note is a good place to kind of orient yourself when you're moving to a different mode. And the most common pivot notes, and we'll talk about that later, is 1, 4, and 5, because they're shared in a lot of the modes, and they're kind of easier to figure out where you are. So that's a pivot note. Okay, we're going to get a little taste of Magein Avot and Ukrainian Dorian Mishaberach. Any questions before we do that? Okay, this one should sound pretty familiar to you. Kol od balevav benima. But let's sing it on numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 5, 6, 8, 5. Yeah, so this is going to be like Western natural minor. Should feel relatively familiar. And a time that we hear this is on Friday night. Magein Avot bidevaro mechaye metim b'mamaro. And this is associated with the calm nature of Shabbat. It's really, it's not necessarily thought of as sad in Ashkenazi tradition. It's more about peaceful. And sometimes when we're in this Magein Avot zone, the 7 below will be sharped. So like when we sing, Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. That was our Friday night Baruch Hu in the Nusach. And in the Friday night Mariv evening service Nusach, we have the sharp 7 below the octave. I think on Shabbat morning at CRC this week, we might sing the song Shochen Ad, which I think is probably not normally in the service here, but it demonstrates the this mode and the nusach phrases that go with it for Shabbat morning, Joey Weisenberg's tune goes like this. The nusach goes Shochein Adem Marom Vekadosh Shemo. And Joey Weisenberg put time to it, but using the same melodic structure. Shochein Adem Marom Vekadosh Shemo. Shochein Adem Marom Vekadosh Shemo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can use Hatikva to remember this one. Lots of other minor tunes you could choose. One kind of fun fact about the way that we usually end a phrase in Magein Avot is in Western music theory, you might be familiar with a 5-1 ending. That's the chord before the end is the 5 chord, and then the last chord is the 1. So that's going to sound like da 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 ba bum bum. Like if we go from 5 to 1 or 5 to 1, it's going to feel really satisfying to us, to our Western ears. But this Ashkenazi music, it's not totally Western, and it has a lot in common with Arabic music, with makam. So we're more often going to hear 4-1, which is that called the plagal cadence? And yeah. So in makam, often we're looking at notes, sets of 4 notes, like they call that a tetrachord. Like we might be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're going to be like stuck within that for a while, and then we might build another one on top of that of 4 notes. And so it's kind of something that we have in common between Arabic music and Ashkenazi music is that often we're going to finish 4-1 instead of getting outside of that tetrachord. So Vekadosh Shemo. Let's do a couple phrases with the numbers. 1, 5, 3, 5, 4. 1, 3, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4, 1. Okay, you see what I'm saying with that 4-1 ending? Does that feel satisfying, by the way? I say it feels medium satisfying. But little gospel. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One thing that I was noticing in your playing last night is that in the like bring it on home endings of some songs, when everyone's kind of like, you've hit the last chord and the drums are just kind of like playing like this, and you're kind of going 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1. Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't sound satisfying to me. It sounds unresolved.
Ooh, unresolved.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're close, but you need more prayers to finish. And
Ooh, yeah.
Where's the damn 5?
Where's the damn 5? But we, yeah.
I mean, and unresolved. I know.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give you a 5. Ready for this? So one of my teachers is Cantor Jackie Mendelson. And the most simple way to start the Shabbat Shacharit service is Shochein Ad Marom Vekadosh Shemo 1, 5. But Jackie starts on the 5. I'm going to move away from the mic a little bit because he's very loud. But he goes, Shochein Ad Marom Vekadosh Shemo Vechatuv. So he just gives you a 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So there's your 5. But a nice thing that a lot of people will do on that 4 right before the ending is to give it a little krechts, like a little break. So like Vekadosh Shemo, like a yeah. Or you can just give a grace note right above. Mo.
Is there a technique?
For the krechts,
Yeah.
first
It happens naturally.
either inherit generations of trauma or go through a difficult experience yourself. Or if you can think about your falsetto for a second, I'm going to do it a little higher because it's easier to do higher. And there are different ways of doing a krech, so you could do it like even just adding a little grace note. That's not really breaking my voice, but it's like hinting at a krech. But if I can really make my voice crack, like Vekadosh Shemo. It's like you're going into your falsetto for 1 second. It's like a yodel. It's basically a yodel. Yes.
I don't know if this helps, but the way that I think about it when I'm doing the
I love that. That's great.
I put the pressure on the top of my, like, on the top palate of my mouth. So instead of focusing all of my sound here towards my nose in a bright way, I'm mixing it. So I'm almost like pointing my tongue just up a little bit, like you're going to do overtone, but you're not doing an overtone. And like it directs the air that it like bounces off.
Nice. What it feels like to me and what you're saying is that like you're moving the sound from where you have a lot of capacity for expansion to like maybe a place that's a little closer to the edge. You're like living on the edge.
It quickly brings your space from here to here.
Yeah, nice.
But that's at least just what I think.
Great. Krechts means cry. I love that. Yes. Thanks for asking the question. Let's move on for now. We'll have some more questions soon. Oh man. Okay, it's 1:19. Are people about to walk out? Like I just have literally no idea how interested you are. So
The thing is that you have a rehearsal around-ish 1:30, 1:45.
okay. Well, this is part of the rehearsal. Okay, a cool kind of additional thing related, the closest one to Magein Avot is this thing called the Yishtabach mode, where we have everything we had over here, but we also flat certain notes some of the time. So in a lot of klezmer tunes, for instance, you'll hear the end, da 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 dum, bum 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 bum. That was dun dun dum bum 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 bum. So this flatted two before the end. It probably doesn't sound that satisfying to our Western ears, but in klezmer music, that is like the most common way to get to the end in this minor mode. Bum ba 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 bum ba 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 bum. Let's try that. Bum 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 bum. And we want to get really gritty. We could also flatten the five. Or this is Yishtabach mode. It kind of just comes in and out quickly. You wouldn't usually like hear an entire service in that. Okay, last mode that we're going to touch on just very briefly is Ukrainian Dorian, Misha Berach. It is, you might hear it most like in high holiday services when you hear like, Al chet shechatanu lefanecha ba-da-da-da-dam, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, ay-ay-ay-ay-ay. So you'll see that the 4 is raised here, and the 6 is raised here compared to minor. So let's sing it together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And rather than hearing entire services in the Ukrainian Dorian mode, in Misha Berach, you'll often just hear it inserted in little lines like, let's say I was doing, Yizkor Elohim et nishma v'dacheinu v'bam she'izkarnu hayom livracha. I'm back in minor, so just mostly adding little hints of this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5. Okay, so just quickly talking about moving between the modes. We call those modulations. Sometimes the modulation is going to happen with the home note staying the same, the one staying the same. Sometimes the home note will change. So the first one is called a tonic modulation, and the other one I don't know the name for, but the home note changes. Maybe you know. Non-tonic modulation. So this is, if we were looking at the scales next to each other, keeping the home note the same, we can pretty easily move between them. So let's start in that Freygish that we learned before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's like Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila venismecha. Oh. 1, 5, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. How about getting to Magein Avot? Maybe we can remember Hatikva. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 5, 6, 8, 5, 1. Maybe we can remember Romania, Romania, 3, 5, 4, 3, 5, 8, 6, 5, 7, 6, 5, 1. Okay, so we just did all those modes using the 1 as the pivot note. And sometimes the note moves. I'm just going to sing this one to you because it's just kind of fun. So maybe I'm starting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm in Freygish. And then I'm going to go, I'm going to move the 1 to the, what was the 4 before? So, bum ba 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 bum. And this is my new one. Da 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 da. So this is a traditional set of modulations to go from Freygish on the 1 to major on the 4 to Freygish on the 4 and then back home. Freygish, yeah. So. Do I think this every Shabbos? I do. This is how I think about music all the time. I'm always, when I'm hearing somebody play or sing something, I'm seeing the shape of this, I'm mapping it onto what I think about modes, and I'm doing it myself when I'm leading stuff. Since it's my whole like worldview, I don't have to spend time thinking about it. It just is how I think. Yeah. Okay, I think there's a question slide. Any questions? Yes.
So you were mentioning Arabic and some of the origins of some of the Ashkenazi music incorporated some of that. So you were talking about that kind of break or crest, that kind of moaning.
Yeah.
And it seems to me when I listen to Arabic, like chanting, like call spirit and stuff, there is a ton of that. It's like half of it is like that. What'd you say?
So Arabic music, the maqam system is actually a lot more complicated than Ashkenazi systems, like cantorial systems. So there are more modes, and some of the things that define the modes in the Arabic modes are what are the most stable notes. So generally speaking, like the 1 is the most stable in all of these modes that I just showed you. The 5 is pretty stable, the 4 is pretty stable. In Arabic modes, there might be one set of notes that is shared between two modes, but in one of them, the 5 is the stable one, and the other one, the 4 is the stable one. So let's say I was singing in the one where the 5 is stable. I might have to go, la la la. Another one, same set of notes. So, yes to what you're saying, and I don't want to say any rules for that stuff because it's just a lot more complicated, and you could spend a lifetime learning maqam, and you should. Yes.
Can you touch briefly, I know we're short on time, on Sephardic modes? I grew up going to a Jewish day school that was all Ashkenazi music, but then I would go home and it was all Sephardic at the holidays and everything.
Yeah, like Sephardic from where?
Iran.
From Iraq, you said?
Iran.
Iran. Oh, okay. So Iranian music is, I don't know a lot about it, but what I'll say first of all is that one way of thinking about these musical divisions is like Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, which I would think of as being primarily Syria, Iraq, and Iran, and then Sephardic being more like North African with like a lot of Andalusian influence, and then you have like separate cultures, Yemenite music, although it's more similar to like the Iran, Iraq, and North Africa stuff because it also implements a lot of like Arabic maqam. And then you have like Uzbekistan and that stuff, which relates also to the Iranian music. But saying like blanket, what is Sephardic music like? It's just like so diverse. But within the Arabic world, which does not count Persian music, generally maqam, like this Arabic system, is applied to the Siddur as well. So you might have a whole service that's that part of the year is chanted in a specific maqam, a specific Arabic mode. My understanding about the music of Jews in Iran is that there wasn't a ton of music of Jews of Iran because they weren't allowed to. So for instance, like the Kiddush would be, I was hearing somebody sing the Kiddush like very, very simply. So I have a friend these days, Chloe Pumarati, who she's a Jewish Persian musician, and she takes Persian art songs, not Jewish songs, and puts Jewish text to them, because I think there's a less, from my understanding, a less broad musical history because the Jews weren't allowed to. But there are people to ask about this that know way more than me. Galit Dardashti, I think, is the best person to ask. She's a professor at JTS and has a band called Divan, and she knows about this stuff. And I think that she comes from like many generations of male Iranian cantors, and she's a woman, and she's like kind of revolutionary in that sense.
In Los Angeles, when I go, there are Persian temples.
Yeah.
And the songs and melodies are all different.
From each other or from Ashkenazi?
From all the Ashkenazi.
Oh yeah, totally. And the Persian music, my understanding, also has a whole quarter tone system, kind of like Arabic maqamat, but it's different than Arabic music, and I don't know much about it. Yes.
I heard, and this is not, I'm no expert on Sephardic Jewish music, but like, I heard, like in one chant that I was like listening to, I can't remember what it was, but there was a sharp chord, but also a flat two, so it was like da 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 da, like, so it was like a mix of some of the ones we were talking about. It's working with that like a quarter tone scale. That's like I don't know what
Yeah.
it's called, but like that's
Yeah, I don't know the answer to, I don't know more about what you're saying, but do send me a recording of what you're talking about if you can find it. I'd love to hear. And what I want to mention about the Andalusian influence versus like just the Arabic influence is in some Sephardic music, for instance, like the music of Flori Yagoda, who is like the mother of, considered like the grandmother of Ladino song these days, and she passed away not too many years ago. You hear, it sounds like music from Spain. La rosa en florece en el mes de mayo. This is like Ladino music, and that's actually also a Turkish folk song. So when my synagogue did a collaboration with a Turkish Muslim center, we sang that song together in our different languages. And so that's more like a northern influence, and I took some violin lessons with a Moroccan non-Jewish musician, but who studied with a lot of Jewish musicians in Fez, and he would be like, this tune, this is totally Andalusian, you're gonna hear it sounds a lot more Western, and then this tune, you're gonna hear much more Arabic, it's much more of the maqam system. So listen for that diversity when you think of what is Sephardic music. Maybe this will be our last question.
As a musician, do you still dip into Western theory stuff, or now that you're committed to what you're doing, you kind of like are more hearing it through this musical theory lens? Like,
Yeah, I definitely do think of things in terms of Western music theory, especially like if I have a guitar in my hand, like a chordal instrument is gonna like immediately change the way that my brain is approaching a song or a moment about what's possible. But, so taking okay, because I'm thinking about chords versus melody. So I think like if you think of symphony being like so much about what kind of chord is happening, and then moving closer to the Arabic world and some of this Ashkenazi stuff, you're not gonna necessarily have tons of big chord things happening, but you often have like a choir going ooh and giving a note to just for the cantor to harmonize with, and maybe they'll go ooh, and then they'll harmonize with that note, ooh. So that's still very like melody centric, but you're getting the context of like a root note there. And then going into the Arabic world, when things are much more, it's like heterophony, like everybody playing the melody together, but ornamenting it differently and getting different textures based on who all is playing together. So I want to bring that into songs that also have like the Western chordal context.
So cool. No, I felt it from last night when you were playing with you. It's kind of neat because, I studied some Ethiopian music recently, and it's similar to these 4 or 5 different things. Yeah, set of pentatonics and stuff, and it's just interesting because we're doing this music, and this is one of the reasons we bring you in to learn with you. It's like, how could we be thinking that we're not already? This is definitely very fun. So.
Amazing. Well, it was so nice to hear everybody's voices and to hear your questions. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we're gonna, I'll stick around for about 5 minutes if people want to quick questions, and then I'm gonna like eat a cookie, and then we're gonna have a rehearsal. So thank you all so much. Yes, Nava is teaching a class tonight at 7, is that right?
I think it's 7:30.
At 7:30.
Desserts before
Get here at 7 to spiritually prepare yourself in the space. And yeah, wow, there's so much happening in this community, and it's beautiful to see all of the talent and love that's being shared here.